Hey, welcome back, everybody. It's again Straight Talk with Jack, and we're going to do another video about underrated Pablo records. Underrated. Again, I don't want to be repetitive from the first video, but those of you who don't know about Pablo records, find out because it's a hell of an underrated label. You know, we all knew, of course, Blue Note, and as Dan the Jazz Shepherd likes to tell everybody, Blue Note, you know, when I was a kid, Blue Note was just this little record, you know, record label from Hackensack, New Jersey, and then Englewood Cliffs, my old stomping ground where I grew up. You know, Columbia was the big gun, and Decca, and you know, just those big labels. I mean, Blue Note was not a big name. Same with Prestige. They were little record labels recording all these great jazz people on it. But you know, Pablo, I guess in a way, maybe was the same thing. And we'll talk about that. But again, thank you all for being here. Please like the channel and subscribe. We appreciate that. I appreciate your time being here. Thank you. Today we're going to commence talking about 4, possibly 5 records in the Pablo sphere of people. Again, Grant was not looking for new people. He was looking to take established names and build a catalog and build a presence for these folks so that they had a place to record. And who better to start out with Duke Ellington? Does it get bigger than that? No. Again, maybe someday I'll do, in fact I should do a video or 10 on Duke Ellington. In my estimation, one of the 3 to 4 geniuses in the history of American music. But what he did really with Pablo is do some really great sounding and influential recordings. This is a recording called Duke's Big 4, 2310-703. This was recorded back in, I believe, 1973 with Ellington, Joe Pass on guitar, Ray Brown on bass, and Belson on drums. This is shortly after Grant started Pablo Records. He put together this kind of a group very successfully. I don't know where this was recorded, but I have a feeling it was in LA again, because Val Valentin, the great producer, produced this record. This record here is a 9.9 out of 10 in terms of a sounding record, a great sounding record. This is an original Pablo. Again, the insignias drawn by Pablo Picasso. Record label is named after Pablo Picasso. But this quintet or quartet rather, of Duke, Pass, Brown, and Louis Belson. Again, kudos to Belson for just being a great drummer, just playing time, staying within the music, and not being a drum soloist behind a trio like happens so many times. This is a great sounding record. A lot of Duke Ellington originals on here: Cottontail, Prelude to a Kiss, Just Squeeze Me, Love You Madly, Everything But You. Great record. If you only buy one Pablo record, you can only buy one in your lifetime, buy this one. Well, maybe this and the next, buy 2. It's a great record. Listened to this many times. Interestingly enough, Benny Green did the linear notes for this. But recorded in 73, came out in 74. Pablo 2310-703. You know, Duke Ellington is a very underrated pianist. We know him for his background work with the band, where he doesn't really solo a whole lot, but on here, he stretches out somewhat, plays a number of choruses on most of all these dudes, and you really could hear his voicing and his ingenuity. Technically, a far superior pianist than a lot of people give him credit for. You actually I hear Monk in his playing, and very very underrated pianist. Goes along with Pablo being an underrated label. Great sounding record. I'll put this up against any of the direct-to-disc records that came out in the day, and I just can't rave about this enough. Duke's Big Four, a monster record. Number 2, again, we're going to stay in the Duke Ellington theme. This is called This One's for Blanton. And I'm going to tell you, it is equally as good sounding as that record. What's interesting about this record is that this record is just a duo record. And it was, I believe, in 74 and came out in 75. No, 73, came out in 75. Again, recorded it in Las Vegas. There's a record studio there called United, I believe, that was put out some decent stuff. This is I won't say it's equal to that record, but it's about a 9.9899. It's very close. These two, I believe, are probably 2 of the 5 best sounding Pablo records. They also happen to be 2 of the, top 10, in my opinion, musical records that Pablo ever did, and one of the most influential records that I own in my entire collection. Jimmy Blanton, bass player. For those of you who don't know Jimmy Blanton only lived to 23 years old. Died very young. But he was a classically trained bass player. I believe he was from probably Memphis, if I remember right, and went to Tennessee State University. Studied classical violin and then bass in college. And he had the ability to play harmonically a lot different than any bass player at the time was playing. Bass players during this period, meaning the 40s basically, late 30s and 40s, were not predominantly featured. They were there to keep time to the music. But Blanton, being such a great player, Ellington saw that and used him out front in the band. And he became an integral piece of the band and played solos with the band. Really developed that walking bass line. Played a lot of great harmonics, and rhythmically was just a very technically polished bass player. Interestingly enough, on this record, Ray Brown plays bass, and you hear a lot of Blanton's playing in Ray Brown. Ray Brown is a lyrical bass player. You'll hear his lines; they play like a horn line in back of the section, and he's just, of course, Ray Brown. What can you say? Side 1 is standards, Duke Ellington standards, Sophisticated Lady. Do Nothing Till You Hear From Me. Number 2 is a fragmented suite for piano and bass. 4 movements. Just a masterful recording. One of the great recordings that Pablo did. Great recordings in the jazz canon. This is a great sounding record. It is a demonstration, so it might theoretically they're supposed to sound a little better. I don't know about that, but it'd be hard to believe that this record's so good. And learning about Jimmy Blanton, because other than Scott LaFaro, and probably maybe Hayden, who got away from that type of bass player and explored him in new and more adventuresome stuff. Most bass players and certainly the bebop players and the swing, the later swing players after bebop really took so much from Blanton. He was a real innovator and died, of course, very young. It's a shame. Record number 3, we're going to go back to Basie. I Told You So. That's the name of the record. 2310 787, recorded in 76, baby. January 76. Butch Miles is on drums at this, of course, Freddie Green. Trumpet section is Sonny Cohen. Pete Minger, another underrated trumpet player. Pete Minger. Bobby Mitchell, Thomas, Jack Fearman, don't know him. Al Gray, Curtis Fuller's on trombone in this band. Jimmy Forrest, real thick bluesy tenor player, Jimmy Forrest. Eric Dixon, good lyrical player. Charlie Folkers, I like his alto playing as well. It's a great band back in '76. One of the best big band records that Basie did on Pablo. This is a reissue. You can tell it's a little thinner vinyl. But these are all Bill Holman charts. A great sounding record. This, I'd say, is a 9 out of a scale of 10. I put this up against almost any other big band record I've ever heard in terms of sound. Musically, it's amazing. There's some really adventuresome writing on here with some standards and some new tunes, but just a really great sounding recording. Pablo, I can't tell you enough how great they sound. It's a shame that they didn't last, but Grant's sold them, and some things got reissued, which we'll get into. Let's talk quickly about 2 more records here. Well, let's talk about Harry Edison. There's Harry. Harry Edison is in my top 3 of greatest trumpet players that I enjoy. Lyrical player, knew his limits. I think I might have talked to this in a video a few back. I'm not going to waste too much time. But this is a later Pablo recording. This was done in 1988. Harry was not as polished in 88 as he was in 78, but still played with so much soul and so much feeling. Buster Cooper, Andy Simpkins on bass, Tootie Heath on drums. Curtis Flieger on tenor and alto. These are all buddies of his, thus the name for my pals. A good sounding record, about an 8 on a scale of 10. You notice all of these are just really great sounding records, and I would tell you this record might be a little bit difficult to find, but it's one of Harry's. One of the records everybody should have, because it really follows his playing, and you can hear the consistency and just sweet sound coming from Sweets Edison. He was named Sweets Edison. I believe that Lester Young gave him that name. They called him Sweetie Pie for a while. I don't know that went over too well, so they changed it to Sweets. And lastly, for today, we're going to talk about Oscar Peterson and another Harry Edison. But this time, we have Eddie Cleanhead Vincent on alto. Again, an older record recorded in 1986. Some of the colored covers, getting away from the black and white, you'll know they were the later issues. This is 2310, 927. Eddie Cleanhead Vincent, real soulful, bluesy player. How he got his name Cleanhead, if this story is true, is he tried to straighten his hair using some kind of chemical, some lye or something, and it destroyed his hair. So he shaved his head, and then he loved the look before it was, of course, popular here. This is called the Party's Over look. But that's how Eddie Cleanhead Vincent became Cleanhead. Really soulful, full-sounding soulful player. But just a really good band. Of course, you got Oscar on piano, Joe Pass on bass, Martin Drew. That was a trio that Oscar had back in the 80s. I saw quite a bit in the Blue Note in New York. Real tight trio. I believe Martin Drew is British. And, of course, Joe Pass. But this is a really good record. I love Cleanhead's playing. Very, very soulful playing. And you put him with Harry and Oscar. Does it get much better than that? No. Please investigate Pablo Records. Just YouTube Pablo Records and listen to some of the stuff that's available. And then seek these out. They're on Discogs. The Duke Ellington stuff gets a little pricey to get a good copy because they're not as available. But like this record, the Harry Edison, you can find these for between $10 and $20. Check your record stores. They're there. And, you know, with a good record cleaning machine and a good, you can clean some of these up if they're not in great shape. And they sound terrific. Pablo Records. We'll have one more Pablo Records video coming. And again, thank you for being here. We'll be back. And for now, we'll see you.